right, I'm going to go ahead and call this Special Rules Committee to order. We have, actually, let's do introductions before I start blabbing.
Mr. B. Peterson.
John Robinson.
Thanks, Alex.
Felix Rivera.
Red Knight.
D. Ennis.
Christopher Constant.
Thanks. All right. So we have a pretty light agenda today. Just have two things. First is to go over our last pillar, at least until the communications working group meet next week, I believe. And then
Meet on the 7th.
Okay, and then we'll be able to look at the last pillar. But for now, review our last pillar, and then talking about the process going forward and making sure we're all on the same page there. So we're going to be looking at the quality of life one for folks. I think we also have the economic development one, but we actually did do that one last time. So quality of life is what we'll be looking at. I'm just going to quickly go through the structure for these, just in case folks don't remember. So we start off with history, how the conversation went in our goals and visioning meetings that we had, those series of 3 meetings, what our goal is, what questions we need to answer or explore, what role we have, and then some short-term and long-term goals, who we work with on all of these things, and lastly, how are we accountable, and some questions regarding accountability. So let's start off with the history, which is the first 4 paragraphs. Any thoughts or discussion on that?
You're gonna label these sections?
I mean, I could label them. It would just add a bunch of headers. What I would prefer to do is if sort of we could graphically make these differentiate the different sections. But we could look at headers too.
I really like what your staff did with the Midtown newsletter with the boxes.
Yeah.
That made it like you can just kind of find what you're looking for.
Yeah.
If you haven't seen it. It kind of looks like a newsletter. It's really great. It's kind of shifts you around.
Makes me feel bad for not doing one that was
Really good stuff. It's the kind of stuff.
Just rebrand.
Yeah, Fred, we can be informal here, so it's okay.
Sorry?
We can be informal here, so go ahead.
Yeah, so this last year, with the earthquake and the forest fires, have altered some of the things I think about when I'm talking about quality of life. And so it's intriguing to me here that quality of air, I think we ought to include quality of air, and we passed a resolution on that, I think unanimously, and so, yeah, and certainly, I mean, you all watching the news and seeing what California is going through, the effect on people with pulmonary stress is huge. I was somebody that had it or was thinking about moving here. I sure don't want last summer's experience to be repeated. So somewhere or another, I'd like to see that included here. And there's a little thing here on comes up maybe page 3, but under quality of life talks about being safe, and certainly criminal activity, could come under that. Is there a place where in the rest of what we're going to work through that talks about crime?
Yeah, we have a whole pillar that's focused on public safety.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, but obviously, right, there is a connection between public safety and quality of life, right?
Sure.
So we talk about it in here too. Okay, so seeing no.
I didn't know if
Sure.
you wanted to reference any of the current administration's resiliency initiatives as part of quality of life.
Sorry, say that one more time.
The administration's resiliency initiatives,
Got it.
or at least kind of point to them as part of quality of life, because I think that's the driver. It
Okay.
could probably just go in your list somewhere, but
Sure.
it's a good habit.
We can do that. Okay, seeing no other thoughts on the history part, then I'll pause. Yeah, go ahead, Pete.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And so I was just looking down the quality of life, and it says expand the parks and rec service area to all the bowl. You mean create taxing districts throughout all the bowl? Is that what that means?
Sorry, where do you see that?
It's under quality of life, livable city, down toward the third from the bottom. Hmm?
Oh, okay. So, sorry. So the second page is a summation of the 3 meetings that we had, and so that's one of the things that we're going to talk about is how do we want to include these things.
Oh.
So basically, the first page is some addition of history and then outlining some goals, and then the second page is sort of in broader detail all of the discussions that we had. So I don't know how we're going to include all of these things or not. That's a discussion for us to have.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Yeah. So then moving on to ideas. So and I did take the note of adding pages and numbers to this, is just haven't gotten around to that. So the 5th paragraph on the first page, that encapsulates our ideas, the meeting that we had, which is actually, that's where you pulled out that expand Parks and Rec service area to all of the bowl. Pete, that's where you got that from.
All right.
So I think that's a fair encapsulation of that meeting. Then, oh, sure, go ahead.
Sorry, I didn't read this before the meeting.
That's fine.
I'm not prepared, but just some brainstorming things. So broadly, these things are, we have a comprehensive plan that it's a huge process. It essentially does this. Here are our goals. So we really do have, we have a goal, and that's those plans. They cover a lot of these things. There's a small thing on this. When we say things like increasing density, increasing density isn't really the goal. Increasing density is a tool towards getting more housing, getting more affordable housing, be more efficient in the use of our infrastructure and so on. And also, when you say increased density, there's a little pushback too, because people really want single-family homes on this lot. We can't all afford that, so we have these alternatives. And that's not 100%. We kind of move around in our lives, but so I don't know. I just kind of, when I see increasing density, it's like that's a tool more than like increasing the number of shovels or something. Those are just tools for digging the hole. We need more holes or something. I don't know.
The holes aren't even the answer.
Sure. So what do you got?
It's really what we're talking about is that our housing meets the needs of our community. That's really
That's
the
a good
goal,
summation, yeah.
right? Our housing supply meets the needs of our community, and then there are a number of ways you get down to the tactics. But I think you're absolutely right. It's not the holes; it's the landscape.
Mr. Chair.
Yep. Go ahead. Go ahead, Fred.
Yeah. I don't want to nitpick, but
That's what these are for, so it's okay.
3, I don't want us to put 100% increase in buses. Busing is and improving it is, but
Yeah.
I don't want to be on record as saying we're promised or committed.
Yeah.
We've got too many competing things for those funds.
So let me then make this very concrete. So rip these 2 pages apart.
That's my favorite thing.
Those were just the notes.
You don't have to put
So-
it away.
Yeah, so.
Oh,
thi-
so we're only talking about the first 2 pages?
we don't necessarily have to only talk about that, but let me explain what these 2 pages are. So this page is the notes, the summary that Lori Wolf did of the 3 different meetings that we had.
All right.
Then this page is sort of the attempt of putting it all together into some type of narrative. I don't know what we're going to do with this page yet. We might not do anything with it. We might just bury it, and or we might decide to. That's part of what we're going to talk about soon. So what you're seeing is in this next paragraph where we talk about the goals. What I did is I translated that 100% increase in funding for bus routes. What I did is I translated that to, we will work to increase funding for public and alternative transit options, rather than putting 100% on it, right? That was my translation of it. So that's a perfect segue to that paragraph. So the goals paragraph is the roadmap has been laid out, ... That's the goals paragraph. So does that, and then, John, do you want to say your bit here?
I'm sorry, what?
You don't remember what you usually do here?
No, repeat. Sorry, I'm reading this. I wasn't.
So usually you say, hey, Felix, why are you burying the lead? You should
What
put
did
that
you-
on the top.
Yeah, you should. And if
Thank
you know that, why are you? I would say in regards to that, when I write, a lot of times I do it backwards and then I bring it.
Me too.
They go, oh, let me do this right. So I'm not
Yeah.
school teaching you.
No, that's fair.
I thought you were asking him to do his DOT spiel about building roads so cars go fast.
Oh, no, we've heard that one enough.
Oh, excuse me, forgot the one.
So that goals paragraph, does that sound good? Does that, because we had 3 different goals, so I tried to do my best to merge all those ideas into one. Okay. Then we have questions to explore in order for us to sort of move forward with better defining how we want to achieve the goal. So those questions sound good. Any additions to make in those? I think, yeah.
I mean, okay, first line on the second page. That's your goals, right? Is that right?
So can you read the start of it?
Where are the gaps in the sector?
That's actually, so that goes with the question. So that's the questions.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm not, where are the gaps in this? That doesn't.
I don't know if I
show
have
what
that
you're
piece of
driving
paper.
at. Just the back one of it.
Yeah, first line on the back of the first page. Where are the gaps?
Quality of life.
Where are the gaps in the sectors which impact? So are you, I'm sensitive, I would almost say, what are the opportunities and constraints and, like on home builders and transit and so on? Is that what you're looking for? I think I need a definition of gaps in the sectors.
Let me see where, if I pulled that from somewhere, if I made that one up entirely.
I would assume it means just the conversation. What tiers in the market are not supported within?
Oh, is that what you're thinking?
That's what I read it as. Because we're talking about housing, we're talking about
with that.
can residents find housing that fits their needs? Once we've determined they can't, what are the pieces that are missing? And so the impacts quality of life, I mean, that's kind of that's not necessary. But to me, it's what are the gaps in the housing market?
Oh, okay, so that's what, okay.
Which is
Well-
what impact people's quality of life, but.
Sure, but do we want to look at it more broadly though? And I think that's now that I'm thinking about it, is probably where I wanted to go, is because we do have another question here, right? That says, can residents find housing that fits their needs? Right, that's one question to explore, and then where are the gaps in other things? And I guess, I mean, we could detail those other things, but that's culture, that's entertainment, all those things. Where are those gaps?
I had a short-term goal that will speak to John's heart, which is he's working on the AMAT scoring.
Yeah.
Which really falls right in line with this. I mean, that's
Yeah.
a concrete thing you're working on. We might as well capture those things if they're actually happening.
Yeah.
So.
It would be nice to have something in there, you know, how do we prioritize, horizontal infrastructure, if you want to be really long, roads, you know, but that means roads, alleys, you know, all that kind of business.
Right, and I think that is one of the things we need to work on, really, is, because all that work you're doing is creating a new paradigm. But that paradigm doesn't just apply to AMAPs and their road projects. It actually applies to almost any investment project that we're doing, right? Those questions, and so, in some ways, that approach should move into the various plans, plan documents, guiding processes, and our review. And so that, I think, is the next step.
I would almost say the way I'm looking at rescoring stuff is starting with our plans. How do we make this prioritization of roads match the goals in our plans? I mean, my high ground is these are our plans,
Right.
but we have this thing that goes the other way. How do we bring it in this thing? So it's the other direction for me.
Both ways.
Okay. So coming back though to that question, I'll go ahead. I just wrote a note that I just need to rephrase that so it's more clear what I'm trying to say. Then the role, are we comfortable with what's been described as the Assembly's role in this? Convene, facilitate discussion, listen to policy solutions.
So I would say enact. I mean, we're the policy-making body. That's right there. So, we do that. I mean, we do changes in Title 21. Those reflect, I see pretty uniformly when they're brought to us. It reflects some community need, often expressed in our plans.
Sure. So I think what I was trying to get to there is a lot of the policy solutions on this front that come to us are either, as you said, John, sort of dissected from the plans that are come up, or come to us from groups like AEDC, who are thinking about live, work, play, quality of life. But yes, I do agree. Let's have our verb very assertive, but also find a way to make sure that we're listening as well.
Well, you could do your lead in. The Assembly's role is to set policy for the city. In this quality of life business, we do that through. And that's what you're describing there. Kind of encapsulates what we do. I would definitely say it's more than organizations, though. We have land use plans that set goals and priorities. And we've had good presentations at the CDC where they're working through that land use plan. They have their goals and they're checking them off.
And neighborhood-specific plans, and
A whole variety of them.
there's a ton of different uses, park plans.
Okay.
I'm talking about plans, when they did the 2020 plan, they designated East Anchorage for more density. And, when you're doing long-range planning like that, sometimes the plans seem to be made up and then they stuck on a shelf somewhere and nothing comes of it. But actually, the density has increased in East Anchorage, and that's why Mr. Dunbar in my district is the most populous district of all the Assembly districts right now. It's because we have a lot more multifamily housing than we used to. So they actually looked at it and said, oh, okay, we can do that.
Thank you for that point. So I can go ahead and add that in there then, reference to all of those different land use and neighborhood plans and other parks plans, etc. Yeah, go ahead,
And this
John.
is not everyone understands this, but when we say comprehensive plan,
Sure.
many people think, Anchorage 2020, that went like, it is actually the full volume of plans that kind of spring from that. So it's a district plan,
East
downtown plan, we got
Right.
30 of them or more, or then our land use plan is the huge one. So comprehensive plan encompasses all of those.
Okay, thanks. All right, then moving on to short-term, long-term goals, with the addition of Meg's suggestion for the short term. Anything else in here? Anything that looks off place?
You looking for any additions?
Go ahead.
Yeah, so I'm concerned about civil liberties. And particularly First Amendment rights. really want to rope in so what am I trying to say? The group that looks after civil liberties.
ACLU.
ACLU. And we've worked together a lot over the years on particularly First Amendment stuff. And I think, it's one of the crises of our time. But I sure wouldn't move somewhere where I didn't have freedom of speech.
So that would be added in here as a quality of life goal? Yep.
From my perspective, it's just civil liberties. Protection or enhancement of civil liberties.
Thank you. Any other suggestions for short-term, long-term goals?
Do you want to add anything, Felix, that is more specific to anything we're working on in the town that's more concrete? Or do you think just keeping it open and broad works for now?
I think probably open and broad, and then we can sort of interpret this as we move on to specific districts.
Okay.
Yeah. So if you do think there's something broad that works for all the districts, that's sort of what we're trying to go for here.
I guess I have a question then. I've learned that Midtown doesn't have a district plan. Like, are there a lot of other places that actually haven't taken the time to do community development, or is that an exceptional?
It's not that Midtown hasn't taken the time to do it. It's that when it has happened in the past, it's been pushed down. But I think if you look at the plan, I think Midtown's the only square that's blankish.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's a little one in the downtown South Edition. There are a number of areas that haven't, and really, in some ways, those comprehensive plan updates for neighborhood-specific plans are, to put it in the terms of Star Trek, when a sentient race comes to the planet, they don't say hi until the race has raised its head up and said, "We're here." And so it's really incumbent on those neighborhoods to show themselves that this is the work we want to do, as opposed to an outwardly directed process. Because in my district, we have had really just one plan that was done because it was a settlement from a process and there was a bunch of money. And that plan is irrational because it was built with money and not a lot of thought, and not the local input that is necessary. And then I have other neighborhoods that have done that grassroots work, and their plan is going to stand the test of time. And I have one last neighborhood, they can't get it together, right? And I don't want to be the one pushing them to get it together. They've got to do that.
I was just thinking, if we're looking, because we were referencing the other plans in the document, that if we would want to encourage or at least make them aware that as we're looking for guidance and stuff, that that's where we're looking, and it's up to you if you want to. I mean, it's just like the CIP list. You want to get it filled out, that would be really helpful. So that's just what I was thinking about. So.
And it is valuable. I tell all my council people, you need this document, especially when you're concerned about land use and growth.
So before we conclude on the goals, I just got a text from Crystal, so I'm just going to read it. Regarding the quality of life, please keep in mind that the Chugiak Eagle River residents do not benefit by current public transportation routes. There are no destination routes in our area, only a stop location between downtown Eagle River and downtown Anchorage twice a day. Second, the walkability to schools is somewhat irrelevant, as the vast majority of our elementary students live more than 1 mile from their school, and most middle school and high school students live more than 3 miles away, and as much as 11 to 16 miles away. And yeah, that's it for quality of life. So I just wanted to make sure that was
Well said.
on the record.
Can we add then to the public transit section some language that states that public transit services will reach South Anchorage or will serve South Anchorage and Eagle River? Because we sacrificed that in the process of coming up with the new route maps. And I still believe we need to have a service that meets the needs of the broader community.
So we could, there's the long-term goal, increase public transit and multimodal options. We can include that, append that to add.
Just a phrase that says to include South Anchorage and Eagle River.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, you know, I think it's a bigger vision. You know, if you don't have good public transit, then you are continually under the crush of the cost of maintaining your roads and so on, and providing parking and so on, and stuff. So long term, but you do have to be a little careful because the reality is operating costs for that is very hard to come by. I don't want to create an expectation that, oh, good, we'll be getting that soon. I mean, it certainly is a goal to cover the city with it. I think
Yeah.
Eagle River can use transit.
But,
Certainly South Anchorage can, but we were really tight on the operating money, and I supported the change, which, you know, was not helpful for my district, but we had limited funds. We put them where they were most effective. You know,
And it's worked.
we worked.
yeah, and John's point, I mean, it's, once again, there's a competition for those funds. And running another bus out there, you gotta do probably what we have plus 3 or 4 to make it viable for commuters. And to John Rada's credit, I said, hey, we need a park and ride place out there. It happened within weeks. You know, you just pass the Highland thing, you'll see a paved parking lot out there. It's half full. And private sector is pretty good. There's quite a number of informal van pools, you know, that come in from the valley and so on. And of course, mass transit for urban areas work when there's a destination where it's really close. People can walk to where they work from the bus station or the whatever. I think we're a long ways from there. Darn it. Or, no, not darn it. I like having our city spread out.
Thank you. Yeah, go ahead, Mike.
I have the graphic of long-term goals. I guess reading back through our notes, I would add a third dash, just increase or improve community amenities. And I know that's vague, but it hooks into some of the parks dedication, some of the vibrancy and desirability of the city, and some of the things I'm seeing on the notes here. I mean, and what I intend to mean there is, I guess, I don't know, our community rec centers, and we've talked
Yeah.
about the need for some amenities, public amenities.
Right.
And it would also include, some of the things about arts, perhaps, because I would consider those a community amenity. So,
Okay,
to kind
yeah.
of capture it, it's a catch-all a little bit, but.
Sure. Thanks. John?
You know, looking through here, part of quality of life is the cost of living. And we don't really have that mentioned in here at all. But there are a lot of things. If you can increase people not driving cars, you cut a lot of the costs in your society is maintaining those, building those. We did, $600,000 to create a right turn pocket on the street. And you need that because the traffic bumped up. If you can minimize the growth of driving, that's a huge amount. If you want to do 4-way stoplights because traffic is growing, that's like $250,000 to $350,000 or something like that. Because it intersects, that's a lot of money. So let's restrain how much we increase our driving. So a lot of this goes away. It's a more affordable city as far as our city costs. But also when you do that, if you don't have to own a car, you can spend a lot more on your downtown flat, So there really is an economic aspect that's not mentioned in here. This stuff makes simply more affordable living. What's affordable housing? We should eat affordable living. Not just the cost of the house, but everything else. Cheap place to buy my groceries. I don't have to own a car. Insurance costs are cheaper. All that stuff.
Okay.
Work that in. Ultimately, it's cheaper living.
Sure. All right. Then moving on past the goals to organizations that we're working with. And I try to put a good slew of organizations there. I could always add the and others so that no one gets offended.
Good luck.
I'm sorry, you were talking about people who we're working with?
Yeah. Yeah, that's the next.
You put ACLU in there?
I did not know.
Because we fight them half the time. Sometimes you're with them, sometimes you're against them. It's like.
Me
So
too.
I'm working on a project and I want to have them, and I know it'll hurt. It's like they're on both sides.
Categories.
Yeah, they're on both sides. Like,
Yeah, so they gave me a t-shirt and dared me to wear it on the Senate floor, and I did. Then we argued over some thick stout beer about whose constituents were the most upset about us working together.
that feeling.
All right. Any other partners to add on here? Okay. Then, yeah.
Sorry, I'm not going to suggest other partners, although I think there are a few. I'm only going to ask that when we reference ACDB, they
Sure.
have not been called ACDB for about 10 years.
Visit Anchorage.
We all know what you're talking about when you say ACDB, but the Convention and Visitors Bureau changed the name about a decade ago.
Sure. Thanks.
And then you won't get in trouble with Mr. Dyson.
All right. Any thoughts on the accountability metrics? I tried to do pretty broad here. Talk about public safety, trails, transit, activating our public spaces.
You know, one of the things that's always my goal, and I don't know how to do it, and that is to make us not only family friendly, but really support families. And certainly recreational facilities, safe child care, and all those things do it. But it's got to be, seems to me, the health of families and taking really good care of children has got to be a priority. It's not something the government can do much about.
How do you measure that?
Yeah, that's right. I mean, you can look at child abuse, suicide, drug addiction, but yeah, at least I want us to eliminate barriers when we can.
Okay. Any other thoughts on?
So if I was thinking about where to move or invest, I'd say this area has the highest divorce rate in the nation. I ain't going there. And I'm not asking my employees to go there either.
Yep. Okay.
Whatever.
Really?
No. We got the highest rate of child abuse, child sexual abuse, but not divorce rate. We're catching up on suicide.
All right. So I don't see any other metrics. Then any other final
Actually,
thoughts?
I-
Oh, sure.
Just on kind of the way these are stated. Graphic of accountability and metrics, I don't know if you say these are yes, no questions, is crime going down, yes or no? If you're striving for that maybe, or if you're saying, okay, at some point we will get periodic feedback, it would be a graph of crime, so you say, or what are crime trends, what is the status of our trail system, which I think they actually, some of us publish, it seems like I see that, how many miles expanded, how many renovated, and so on.
Mm-hmm.
And similar, public transit expanding, that's yes, no, but maybe we want to see status of the system or something. And I know Jamie does that as routine, they always have some simple update, they have to do quick, they're pretty good at quick page, one page things.
Sure.
Are our public spaces being activated more often? I think, how many people go there? Is that what that means?
Or sure, but I think more what I'm looking at is like our local groups hosting events in our public spaces. So like a great one is Town Square, and how are we activating Town Square? Are we having more events in Town Square? That's been one of the big goals that the Downtown Partnership has had, is activating that space more.
Okay, you might break this out a little bit then if you were really looking at data, is like, Amanda has those stats, how much? And then they have, it's more and more to me, traffic counters on our trails. But I haven't seen these game cameras, I don't know what they are, but you see these things out there, trails I never imagined they were counting. And I don't know who's doing that, it must be Parks and Rec. But you get some kind of indication. And I'm sure there, I might be doing a loop on this trail and I get counted. But over time, in a lot of views, you have a trend. You assume all that stuff balances out. You're just saying, well, it's a trend. It would be interesting. I don't know what happens with that data. I've never seen it. Chris, are you aware?
Not the
You see
data,
these
only the
things?
polls that tell you how many bikes have gone by. But I haven't seen any traffic counts, and it's the traffic department. There are signage like on the coastal trail when you're way out there that says this maintained and managed by the traffic department.
Well, BLM does trails in the county track, and they have for years. But I saw some, I think on the new single track trails up on Hillside, there's something, a counter there, some places I have not seen.
I haven't seen those.
That's all new.
Okay.
It'd be interesting to find out, but those are, then you have a concrete number.
Well, what would be interesting, would be to gather who all is gathering information, right? Get an assessment of what tracking is going on, and then wherever legal and possible, get an integrated report from all those parties into one. That would be very interesting information.
That was to say is we reach out to, basically the 4 departments or whatever that are here and just tie it to it's something that's longitudinally tracked, and then we can just tie our metrics right back to it. And then we'll have it year over year or whatever. And then it saves us from having to create more work for ourselves to try to run down something that already exists.
Yep.
In some ways, that feed into policy-making decisions on where investments go. When you see substantial use, when you see overuse, without investment in maintenance or other elements, that could actually help drive policy database.
Yeah.
Also look at it, quality of life. There's no thing on it. We start off pretty important, housing. There's nothing here on housing, and a lot of that's available. I think we have pretty accessible things on how many single-family homes, how many square footage, how many townhouses, and so on.
Oh, you're talking specifically for the metrics?
Yeah.
Okay.
We have one on our achieving our 2040 land use goal of adding 1,000 housing units.
Yeah. I see it frequently.
They definitely are
It's
working.
not good, but that's what you do. You track it against that.
We're keeping track of how far behind we are.
It just adds to the pressure of allowing people to subdivide and create small units, and
And then for all of these stats, how is Matsu doing? With the competitive?
Okay, Jack.
Well, actually, what that comparison that I've heard that I would like to see some data on is comparative services. So I had someone who's pretty conservative say to me in August, I paid my tax bill to both governments on the same day. And Chris, I'm here to tell you, and this is going to surprise you, that after paying my Matsu bill and then paying my Anchorage bill, I finally understood what a good deal I get in Anchorage because of all of the benefits that come with it that you don't get out there, but you pay pretty close to the same amount. So it wouldn't be a bad idea to have some comparative analysis on what services you're getting for your money.
Wait. Their bill rate's as high as ours.
For him, on his properties, he said basically the money he's paying on that property in the Matsu is comparable, but you don't get anything for it. And so that's what he said. You just don't get it. You don't have policing, you don't have fire, you have dependence on the state, you have.
So they have a separate borough.
I was talking about the borough, that's their taxation.
Yeah, so that's right. But
Okay.
that's not true it's not as true within Wasilla.
Right, those city governments are for sure.
It's not.
Yeah,
But they have sales tax though, right, too?
they do.
All right. Any other thoughts on this one? Okay, so we're going to take about
One
10
last question.
Sure.
Is that something ADC could tackle? Would be an analysis of value for your tax dollar in regions around South Central? I mean, that would be an interesting analysis for someone to conduct.
Yeah, through the chair, we can certainly inquire.
Thank you.
Thanks. All right, so we'll take 10 minutes and then we'll spend our last 20 minutes talking about process moving forward.
10 minutes break?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Having them in the budget helped.
Well, it's
I'm like,
doing good
I
work.
can just.
And my goal is to keep focus on vision and then
That'd be helpful.
unify them all into one harmonious, beautiful whole, and then let them be shredded by the public.
Well, Dean and I are gonna get together the week of Thanksgiving to take our substantive edits together. And
So
report
I have
something.
till I leave them on the 19th
Yeah,
to get.
and that's fine. I mean, I don't think anything we're doing will conflict with any mission statement.
Burn it all down. That's the answer.
Write it all down.
Burn it all down.
So, do we have all those? I know.
It's a good time for coffee.
Plastic bags.
Yeah. Do you guys, do you have people to hand them out
Let's
to?
have it
You
available
want Americano?
on Tuesday.
Okay, sure.
Just bring it, bring it to the meeting and I will put them in the hands of the property. I won't be doing any plastic bag work before the weekend. Although I did make one slide.
But yes, your binders are back here too.
So, because she's really concise language, right? And so, under the definition here, this is my alternate. I'm going to add here. Shopping bag means a single-use disposable.
I'm sorry about that. I'll make sure that
Right, so then we can get past this conversation. That are intended for communities, which we clarify. I mean, her fucking language is like that.
Yeah, she's really good at it.
That's brilliant. She got rid of all of the gobbledygook. This. That's all gobbledygook. It's like one sentence says it all.
I mean, so you are in a position where you're pretty much allowing, except for the fee, then,
The restaurants.
yeah, let's move it together. Instead of a first amendment, that's gonna be a mess. Can she just do it?
She's not getting rid of it. She's stand for blah, blah, blah. And so that's what's going to happen. You know, when you don't have the
I see.
ability to make the policy, you stand up for 10 minutes and tell everyone, this is a fun.
Dee sent us a paragraph for 1 o'clock.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, I got it.
Cool.
Wednesday the 6th.
Yeah, so I literally went to like 8 different homeless camp spots yesterday and only found campers at 2.
Interesting. The corners are good.
Yeah, no, there was.
And they're there late.
It's a day shift.
They're there Tuesday right now, which is weird because they used to disperse for dinner though. They used to disperse to go find food. An interesting thing that Rebecca at the library was telling is most of the midtown folks who come into the library will not go all the way to downtown. Of course, it's too far. But there's no. And so my recommendation is that Beans being the food kitchen that is produces the food.
Hey,
We then
look who's here.
pay to have it covered.
Come along and listen to the show.
Oh, good.
I heard it was the best show in
Don't
town.
say anything crazy.
I'm not gonna say anything.
Good. Don't
Yeah,
say
man.
anything crazy. I felt bad because did I just hear what I just said?
Oh, yeah.
It was
Like
like
that our project isn't slowing down?
No, it was a little less artfully put than what you might have chosen to do.
Well, that was what he was supposed to say. So what he did say, I have no idea.
So
So
I got more. I mean, he got it. That was his closing point.
One on the tire thing. Yeah.
And this is not how it works. Little sweetness. Little honey.
Yeah, but
I understand there's some realities that you have to deal with, and so that's definitely the conversation.
part of the challenge is you were talking about a project manager that spent six of his last years of his life working to advance this, and now the city's losing on their half.
I don't know. Our 2/3 or 3/4, right?
Well, actually, ours is about 100 million, yours is
Oh, but
about
they told
20.
us it was 15. That part of it.
Well, if somebody told you 15 on you from your side, you're gonna need to talk to your manager.
No, it was in this room. The part that branches off to that section is 15.
Oh, just for the undercrossing.
And maybe just for
That's just for the
maybe just
undercrossing.
for the east side.
If you ignore the fact that we're raising the grade something to the tune of 9 feet.
Right, no,
$1 million
that whole
a
thing is
foot.
going, whatever, I get that.
My apologies. I didn't write that name.
He's an engineer, not a diplomat.
Believe me, I get it. I went to Cal Poly and my job was to transit between engineers and their customers.
Yep, that's a key skill set that we need help with on a regular
That's
basis.
the job that I was trying to do.
Anyway.
Okay. No, that was interesting. We had somebody property back. You hear that part of the story?
I didn't hear much. I just got that. He told me he came back and said it got a little hot.
It was word choice only. It was word choice. But yeah, there was a faction that was owner of the building over there. It's like,
Are we back Monday?
they told us you were gonna buy it.
Are we back Monday?
This isn't you, this is the community. So, in order for us to serve the homeless, more than median below.
You need to decide. What did they say? I'm curious.
Well, I said, here's what, I feel your pain. I feel you a neighborhood that's been waiting 30 years to answer the same question.
Yep. And you should be very.
30 years.
And we're still trying to get out of first gear.
It's gonna be something tangible.
I had to really. I was at the. I will give you the flip side of that. We had the stakeholders group. Stakeholders group. One of the guys in there was like, I still have no confidence that we're not going to go for it and build the boat. And I'm like, that's been off the table. Yes, we are legally obligated to look at it. But the reality is that community will never hold still for good reason. Okay. Well, I know one of the ideas that came out of not the senior housing, but they've been looking at the design over at Rogers Park. And instead of having to take that whole room housing, they can take every other one. And that's going to help.
In theory, front side can be used for a form of senior housing. That if it has the proper sound barrier or whatever, it could actually meet the neighborhood need.
Okay, that's an idea.
And so she has a drawing that she made. I think that's May. Yeah. So.
Well, she's talking to the right one to put that idea in his ear, so, because that's gonna be Sean's doing Gary and everybody, so. But yeah, I'm coming along to just kind of get a feel for it.
The world outside, just squish emails. Yep. Where's your man?
Well, we'll see what we do. But yeah, he was asking, well, how do we know? And I'm going, we either just, I'm kidding, and it will go overhead over my dead body, okay? That is not even.
There's room.
No.
Oh.
It's not a matter of there's room. Is it engineerable? Sure.
No, I meant.
But it ruins the community. If the community kills it. So there's no way that's ever going to find traction and actually move. It's a non-starter. Because at the end of the day, we're serving the community. The community is saying, hell no. We're not going there.
Then
We'll not do anything before we do that.
be careful talking that way because that conversation is going to get wrapped around Vanguard and Scooter. And so just, and I think maybe the answer to that dilemma is where the car is on the train.
Well, no, the Vanguard and Scooter problem. The Vanguard and Scooter problem is there's a whole block of that community that really wants this before one of their kids gets ran over because they're regularly crossing that highway at grade.
Yeah.
Playing Dodge cars. And trust me, I've been to too many of their community meetings not to know that there's a solid block of folks in there that want something done.
Doesn't that get answered if you basically were to run the highway through with an above grade and the cut and then a fence that has a gate of some opening so it's pedestrian access?
And that doesn't have enough of a cost or benefit to justify doing it. Just doing a ped tunnel doesn't justify it.
Yeah.
Not with the current numbers. We have to put a connection for the traffic or it doesn't pencil.
That's an interesting argument. That's a good argument.
That's the why.
Did you hear that argument?
The only reason
I did not know.
The only reason we're going up instead of down is because the water table is too damn.
You should be listening to that argument. No, not that argument. The one before.
What was the one before?
Of why we aren't just putting a pet tube there.
No, before that. Why the need?
Why the need? Yeah, go ahead.
because we currently have, on a daily basis, multiple kids and adults that are crossing that location at grade, jumping the fence, punching holes through it, and are out there playing dodge cars daily. And it's just a matter of time until we end up having one of them splattered all over somebody's hood. And that's the community. I was the one that started this project, and the community from that whole subdivision and neighborhood have said over and over and over again, we need a crossing here that can get them safely
So
across.
there, that's your side.
That's the why. That's why we continue to push this. Because I'm not gonna, and so I can tell you, one of the young idiots that did that was my son and a couple of his buddies. They used to do it regularly because they live in that neighborhood, and that's what they would do daily to go to the mall.
Sure, I hear that. It's a rather expensive process. But yeah, I hear that.
And how to get it done is the challenge. So,
All right, I think we need
anyway,
to.
good fun.
Yeah. Oh, hasn't even started yet. I think we need to get started, folks.
Back that guy. To get attention.
I can get attention other ways too, Chris. Yes, there we go. All right. So,
Anyone on the phone?
no, well, I'll double check, but I'm pretty sure. Anyone on the phone? Yeah, I didn't think so. So, process going forward. I only have really 2 dates, and then let's talk about if we need to do anything else. So, I have another rules committee planned for November 8th to do a final review. So, a final, in some cases, review of all the different pillars. And we'll probably do it, hopefully an introductory review of what comes out of the communications working group at that time too. Then design after that to get it to some type of final state with adoption by the assembly on either November 19th or December 3rd, depending on how long the design takes. That is the process that I have outlined. What do we think about that? Do we need a little bit more? Go ahead.
So I've been thinking about this a lot, separate from this specific process we're in right now, but these types of processes, continuing education, et cetera. And it's extraordinarily valuable and also time intensive.
Yep.
And so I think that we should look carefully at the calendar. There are certain times of the year when things are incredibly compacted with too much to do. And so while this isn't this year for the budget process going forward, this process, if we're going to do this regularly, should complete before we have our first public hearing on the budget. And so we could hold harmless the window from the first hearing on the budget to the finishing of the budget.
Sure. Yeah, I can speak to that. So, the way that we're envisioning this, right, is a 3-year strategic sort of envisioning plan. So, when we do come back to it, it's created, and then we can be very strategic about how we come back to it to inform our legislative program, how we come back to it to inform our budget priorities.
And I super understand all of that. And I'm not speaking specifically to this tool. I'm speaking specifically to the tools being developed through the Rules Committee, other than checking out on what we're working on.
Sure.
I think it's wise that there are just some times when the workload is out of the room.
Yeah.
With super critical duties that are specific to our elected responsibility.
Yep.
And so I just want us to be thinking about those cycles. I think there's the spring, first quarter, this, and maybe 1 or 2 other times of the year that we could think about that we would widen a little buffer around.
I agree, and I don't know if Jennifer, you've been involved in the conversations, but Barbara has, where I've asked her to sort of help develop a strategic timeline for when we would get into these things that makes sense, so that we're not doing everything at once.
More bandwidth, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, any other thoughts on process?
I guess I would say I would prefer the December 3rd date, because the way the agendas have gone recently, we've done some pushing, and so this way we can just know it's there and it's not going to be rushed. I think it will also give us the opportunity to take, I like to take the next month to kind of
go and tell the community councils why they're going to see this, because I think it might be a little different for them.
Mhm.
And so that folks know what we're doing.
Yeah, this is a little different. I know I introduced it at all my community councils when I first was chosen as chair, and I got a little bit of, that's interesting, because it is very different. Did you have any thoughts, John or Pete, on process? Okay.
I'm on processing.
Fair enough.
John wants the lead above.
Okay, so then to reiterate, we're looking on the short term, doing a final review next Friday, then adoption on December 3rd, and then on the long term, we're looking at creating a strategic time frame so that we can come back to this plan and other things that we're doing so it fits in with the budget and the legislative cycle and all of that.
Just a thought on that as well. Putting it in the context of terms, we have the mayoral year in which between that time we have a static body.
Yeah.
And so the natural time for review of this would be in that year or at the conclusion of the event that creates the time that's between then and the next assembly term.
Yep.
And so that's a super sweet spot for us because then we will build collective agreement as we have to work together over the course of a number of years. And so from a structural perspective, there's a sweet spot for this talk.
Yeah. I agree.
Make sure this document gets into the orientation packet of any new members moving forward as well. Because it would be really great for them to kind of know where the current or the last body was and where it's going from there.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point. And let the record reflect, we've been joined by Ms. LaFrance. Okay, so thanks everyone for joining me on this adventure. So, any public comment? Opening up to audience participation. Would anyone in our audience like to participate? Anyone at all? Where did you go? Oh well.
Thank you.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and adjourn this meeting then.